Hello lovely people, and welcome back to this week's new video. I am happy to be here with episode 3 of my series Smash or Pass, a series in which I read booktubers' favorite books. If you're new here, hello, my name is Noah. I am a bookish and lifestyle vlogger born and raised and still based in New York City. If that sounds like of any interest to you, I would absolutely love it if you would stick around and subscribe at the end if you so please. So I'm sure you can tell by the title and the thumbnail and all that, episode 3 is going to be based around Haley and Bookland's favorite books. I would have worn purple, but I don't own many purple things. I have like a fancy dress that I wore to a wedding, so I'm just in my cozy loungewear set. I have 5 books to talk to you about like I always do. 2 of them are physical and nope, other way around. 2 of them are audiobooks and 3 of them are physical. Some of these books I took from her tier ranking videos, and then some of them I just knew were a favorite because she's mentioned them as her favorites in various vlogs. And I think this is funny because the day that this video is coming out, it's Thanksgiving. All you Americans, happy Thanksgiving. But I'm actually posting about a Canadian YouTuber on American Thanksgiving. But I did want to give like a really big shout out, or I guess since it's Thanksgiving, that I'm grateful for Haley because she's actually the first booktuber that I started watching, or that made me want to do reading vlogs. Like, I did watch witty novels. She's the very first booktuber that I started watching because I found her through journaling videos. But for Haley, I binge watched all of her like backlog vlogs and realized, hey, this is like actually really interesting, and I think this is something that I could want to do. And now they're my favorite types of videos to be posting on my channel. Really grateful for Haley and the content that she puts out. The very first book that I read is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. This was a while ago, so I'm looking at the Goodreads. This is by Christina Lauren, so obviously it's a romance novel. It's not as smutty because I know Haley doesn't really like the smutty books. Following Hazel, she's like this quirky girl. She has no filter. Although she's really quirky and weird and a lot for some people, she is really a nice, sweet person. And then there's Josh. He's 2 years older than Hazel and they met in college. I believe he was the TA for one of her classes. At a party, Hazel was very drunk. She drunkenly told Josh that she thought he was the hottest person she's ever seen, and then proceeded to throw up on his shoes. 10 years later, Hazel realizes that Josh is the brother of her best friend. Man, so I started the first book for this new video for Haley's favorites. I'm reading Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. This was in her C tier for her ranking all her favorite books, but it's just another excuse to read another Christina Lauren book and have a romance book on here. I'm literally so little into it. Let's see, Libby like just changed, they upgraded their app, so I'm like trying to figure out how to do everything. It's a little bit more confusing, and my battery's about to die, so I need to hurry up. I'm literally 8% of the way through. I think we now know that Josh is Korean. Love that. So his Korean name is Jimin, and I'm trying to like imagine like some super tall, super kind of like a little bit hunky, really like good looking guy, and I'm pretty sure Hazel is white. But I'm gonna keep listening to this while I fill out my bullet journal and charge my battery. Wow, I just finished reading Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, and I am giving it 4 stars, which is actually the same rating that Haley gave it, so I'm really glad. I mean, this book was still a little smutty, and I know that Haley doesn't enjoy super smutty stuff. Super smutty stuff. I do, but I think this was like a good amount of smut, which is why she enjoyed it a lot as well. I found this to be really cute. Hazel, I was writing my review on Goodreads, and Witty Novels said that Hazel reminded her of Jess from New Girl, and I totally see it. She's just so insanely quirky, and I know that it might seem like a lot in the book and it might be a lot to be her friend, but I definitely feel like she's a really good person to know and to have in your life. As for Josh, like most of the, or if not all of the male protagonists in a romance novel, he is like the perfect person. He's so hot. He's like really kind and understanding, and like of course super sexy. I appreciated the representations of Korean culture in this, although I cannot say if it's like authentic and done well or not, but I thought that was a really nice touch, as well as the open conversations that Josh and Hazel had about sex. And their relationship just seemed really natural because, you know, they're going from friends to lovers, which made me love the journey even more. There is like a really big twist in it. Like, out of all of the twists, it was one that I hadn't seen coming at all. I don't usually see it coming in books like this, but it was still really sweet to read about, and I'm starting off great. 4 stars. The second book that I read for this is, of course, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I luckily found this at the Little Free Library. I listened to this via audio while following physically as well. This was a book that Haley raved about last year, as did many people, and I knew that this was one that I had to get to. Daisy is a girl. She has a dream to be a singer. It's taking place in the 70s also mostly, and then there's a band called The Six, and they go on tour, but they both belong to the same record label, and a producer realizes that both groups, Daisy and the Six, have something that the other doesn't, so he decides to combine them, and it's about their life and on tour in rock and roll. Wow, it's been a while since I read a book for this video. I was really lucky because I got Daisy Jones and the Six on Libby for an audiobook, and then I found the physical copy in my Little Free Library in my neighborhood, and I'm actually really glad that I have the physical copy as well, because I know that the audiobook is really amazing and it's got amazing reviews, but sometimes it gets a little bit confusing. I mean, A, there are parts that are written in the book and not said in the audiobook, and B, sometimes they don't say who is speaking and they just speak, and I have no idea who it is. There's also a huge cast of characters, and so I get lost. I wrote a list for myself, and having written it down and connected it from my brain to my hand was really helpful. I'm not very far into it at all. I read 82 pages last night. I'm right before 789, 1975 to 1976. Daisy has not yet met the Six, but I do know that they're within the same record company. It's okay so far. No definitive thoughts at the moment. It's definitely makes me think that this like isn't the life for me, or I wouldn't date a musician, because just the tour life is a lot. I also thought this when I was reading the Happy Ever After playlist. I mean, it's the 70s, a lot of drugs are happening. It's not my scene, and it's definitely hard reading about Billy and Camila and seeing their relationship and, you know, all that stuff. But I hope to read a good chunk of it today and finish it over the weekend. I did it. I finished listening and reading this book during the last NBA Finals. The Lakers won. A little bit disappointing last game. We're not going to talk about it. But this book, I also was looking through Goodreads to look at Haley's review, and she left like a link to her video, and I was just rewatching that little small portion of the video that she linked. But everyone loved this book. Everyone, when it came out, what is it, 2019, everyone was hyping it up so much, and that was one of the reasons why I didn't pick it up, and also because I knew that it was an interview format and I didn't know how interesting that would be for me. Although I did read Evelyn Hugo for episode 2, Hannah's video, and I gave that 4 stars, but I listened to it via audio, so it didn't really quite feel like an interview format. But this book is so overhyped. I was kind of leaning towards 4 stars until I was listening to Haley talk about it. I was hearing all the things of why she liked it, and I realized that I didn't like it as much, that I couldn't find one, like, pinpoint this one part of it or any one character that I liked. So I'm giving it 3.5 stars. That extra 0.5 is because I did start to like Karen at the end. Maybe it's because of her voice, but she was just like an okay whatever character, and then at the end I really respected her decision and choice to stand by that. Although I don't know how I feel about like Camila's conversation with Daisy at the end, but I do really like the strong female characters. I know a lot of people said that Daisy is hard to like. A little bit, yeah, but I think that a lot of that for me was frustrating because she is a drug addict, and I didn't like that part of her because I wanted more for her. But I just think that her personality is really magnetic, and she's obviously a very talented person. The audiobook, everyone hyped that thing up so much too, because listening to it I was expecting a lot. I mean, the music at the end was cool, but I don't really like reading through lyrics. It feels really uncomfortable for me. And also there were a lot of the parts in the book that the audiobook skipped over. They didn't enunciate, or what is it called, emphasize parts that were in italics correctly, and I just expected more, especially if you're gonna go all the way out and have a full cast. But I think in terms of it being a book written in interview format, it was really well done. It told the narrative really well. Eddie is very annoying, but I think I'm giving this book 3.5 stars. I don't remember if Haley read this year or not, but it's Lovely War by Julie Berry. It's historical romance, historical fiction, but also a little bit fantastical. It has a little bit of a genre bending aspect there. We start out with Aphrodite being put on trial by her husband because she is caught cheating. She tells this tale of 4 people during World War II, World War I and II. She is telling the story of how she brought these people together to spin the tale of love and to show that there's no match for the transcendent power of love. So we're following Hazel and James and Aubrey and Colette. Part of it is being told in the perspective of the gods, like Aphrodite and Ares, and she brings in her own witnesses to have them testify in her place. And then of course it's also being told sort of in the perspective, or in the third person perspectives of these 4 characters. Oh damn. Okay, last night I started reading, I keep calling it The Lovely War, but it's Lovely War by Julie Berry. And this premise is so interesting because I've never read a book like this before. I've read like 105 pages last night. I flew through it. It's interesting because it flips back and forth between what's happening while she's on trial, because she's like literally tied up, her and Ares, and she's presenting witnesses to help paint the picture better. I wasn't sure if I would like it because the premise is unlike anything I'd ever heard before or read before, but it's proving to be kind of good. I didn't expect to finish Lovely War so I guess quickly, because I planned on doing one check-in before finishing and after the last clip that you saw, but somehow last night I just really wanted to know what would happen and stayed up later than I normally would to finish this. And I read a really decent chunk of it last night. At first I thought that having the court of the goddesses of Aphrodite being held on trial was interesting, and I thought it was kind of funny, but by the end I was annoyed of it. I don't think I would go as far to say unnecessary, but I was annoyed by it because I just wanted to hear about Hazel and Colette and their love stories. I didn't feel like the court part added anything for me by the end, which is why I docked it half star. I definitely was more invested in Hazel and James's story because they were the more prominent when they were introduced first, and also they had more time together as compared to Aubrey and Colette. Aubrey and Colette's story was very nice because it was an interracial relationship during the early 1900s, which was a really brave thing to do. I'm really glad that Julie Berry also included stories about Black soldiers, and after reading it she includes like a history, and I even did my own research. The Black soldiers that she included are actually real people, like James Reese Europe, who is in this and is Aubrey's CO. He's a real person. He was called the Martin Luther King of music. Like, how amazing is that? Those types of tidbits is why I kind of like historical fiction, and it's been a while since I've read romance or historical fiction, which I really love both genres, because I feel like sometimes when you throw in real people and have the fictional characters' lives like intertwine with those, it really makes it exciting and gives them more life. I really liked Aubrey. Wow, he's a character. He is so bright. I feel like he really came alive on the pages, and I really would have loved to hear him and Colette perform. I just really liked them. So the overall rating I'm giving this is a 4.5 because, like I said, by the end I just didn't care about the gods. I just wanted to know about the couples, and I was close to tears, which I'm kind of surprised I didn't. But I guess, I don't know, because I used to never cry at books until last year, so maybe it's not that abnormal, but I really enjoyed this. I definitely will look into more books by Julie Berry. This is YA if you were interested. Good on Haley. Thanks for recommending this one. This is a favorite book that you kind of know that you had to pick if you're going to do a video like this for Haley, and that's The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This is also historical fiction. It's following Liesel, and she is being taken to a foster family in this fictional town in Germany. She enjoys or wants to enjoy reading, and so she steals books. There's part in this book where her foster family hides a Jewish man named Max in their basement, and it's sort of about life during that Nazi Germany time, like right before and when it's happening. Interestingly enough, this is being told in the perspective of death. I am over halfway through with The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, and I found it in my little free library. This book I've tried to pick up, or I picked it up in middle school. I remember seeing it in my ELA teacher's library, and I didn't finish it. I put it down. I guess there was something about it that my middle school self didn't like. Obviously at this point she has met Max and she has a connection with him. I think it's really interesting being told in the perspective of death. I definitely picked that up right away, and I love Liesel's connection with her father, or her foster father, and their relationship. It's really sweet. I don't quite like her mother, even though she claims to love Liesel. Foster mother, the verbal abuse, I'm not into that. Definitely not. I'm reading a lot of historical fiction definitely for this video, as I know that that's Haley's taste, and I definitely haven't been reading as much, even though it is a genre that I enjoy. It's leveling at about 3 to 4 stars so far. I guess I'll have to see how it ends, but it's definitely a different perspective on Nazi Germany as well, because it's not taking place in the concentration camps, but we are following a Jewish person that's in hiding. I actually finished The Book Thief this morning during work. Oh dear. I feel really bad because everyone that I'm friends with that I follow on Goodreads, and most of the reviews are raving about this book and how amazing it is, and I think I might have set the expectations a little bit too high because of that, or because Haley really enjoyed it. But I think I have to give this book 2.5 stars because, well, I feel like the ending sort of just wrapped up really well. I don't think I necessarily thought that the perspective of death gave anything to it, and I think that it kind of glazed over everything that just happened in World War II. This is a fictional town, and it didn't really talk about the concentration camps or the fear of being taken away to the camps. I feel like the part about Max seems really, really important, and yet it was such a small part of it, and I didn't feel that it was as important as it could have been. I just was expecting more of a historical part of it, and I didn't enjoy it once I realized that it wasn't gonna have any of that. So sadly, this is a 2.5. Of course, I had to save the best for last. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, and obviously I listened to this via audio. 3 hours long, narrated by Jim Dale. Perfect. This is following Alice and her adventures in Wonderland. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. If you don't know what this book is about, you must be living under a rock, because I don't know how you wouldn't know, or if you haven't seen like the Disney adaptations or something like that. But I knew that I had to save her absolute favorite for last. I believe she has like 20 copies of the single story, and it is something that I read before, but it's been a long time, so I thought it would be okay to throw this into the mix as well. I just started Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll via audiobook, and it's very nostalgic. I'm pretty sure that I've read this before when I was younger, and I also read Alice Through the Looking Glass for an English class in high school. I grew up watching the Disney adaptation as well as the live action ones, maybe like middle high school. I can imagine everything. It's very whimsical. Jim Dale is narrating this one, and I love Jim Dale. His voice, at least, he is like the OG narrator for me, since I grew up listening to the Harry Potter audiobooks and reading along with them. My mom would put that on for us, and we would follow along and learn how to read through that. So I'm really enjoying it so far. It's only 3 hours long, and I'm like halfway through. Last night I did finish Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and it was really cute, and I'm giving it 5 stars. I don't know how I would have rated it when I was younger, but I did enjoy watching the movie and even enjoying Alice Look Through the Looking Glass for class, even though it was a book for class. At least I could enjoy this one because I did it with The Book Thief, but it was really nice to be back in this world, and I kind of want to watch the adaptation again, or possibly even read different adaptations of the book adaptations of this book, if that makes sense. I ended off not exactly anything with 5 stars, or anything new rather, because I already knew that I enjoyed Alice and her story, but I really came away liking Lovely War a lot more than I thought. Some things were a little bit surprising for me, like Book Thief, because it has absolutely so many raving reviews. Everybody on Goodreads that I follow, that I'm friends with, enjoyed the book, and I think for me, for Daisy Jones and the Six, it was a good book, and I think it was told really, really well, but it just fell victim to the hype for me. The same goes for The Book Thief. But I hope you enjoyed. I'm not quite sure when episode 4 is going to be out. It is in the works though. I don't know if I should release it in December or in January for the new year, but I hope you enjoy the series. Let me know who you would like to see me do next, and I will see you all next time. Bye!